My guest today is an amazing actor who's well known for her roles in the BBC drama The Cops and the ITV soap opera Coronation Street. Clare McGlinn. Claire, such a pleasure, such an honor to be chatting with you today. Now, something that I thought was super, super cool. And you did this fairly recently. I saw that you were the presenter of this half it's like half drama, half documentary film about the
Mhm.
court of Queen Elizabeth I.
Yes.
How did you get involved with that?
Well, it actually was somebody local in Manchester where I live, and she was a historian, and she wanted to document this amazing thing that happened between these two twins back in 1599. I mean, I don't know which team you support, Sam, but near Manchester United in Salford, there's a place called Oddsall Hall, and it's from the 1600s, and these twins. Um, they live there, and she wanted to document what happened to them. So, and they asked me to be the presenter, myself as a presenter, and Christopher Eccleston, another local actor. Well, we both work everywhere because we're like air hostesses and pilots. We go wherever. But he did all the narration. I did all the one-to-one interviews. So, yeah, that's how I got involved with that.
How would you describe, the experience of doing those interviews? I'd have to imagine, it was a pretty cool learning experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to do a lot of research. I had to kind of step into your job a little, be a bit of an investigator or a journalist, because what we were doing was looking at music from that period, also, and then talking to people like Peter Hook, who's from Joy Division, which was a massive band in the 80s, who actually loves all this kind of eclectic music of the day, the melancholy of the music, of the lute, which influenced how he played his guitar, would you believe? We'd go and visit local museums in the area, looking at the costumes, the armory that was used back then. So the drama actually played out the twin story, but the actual presenting I was doing was the interviews around the era, really, and bringing it to compare it with the modern day, you know.
Let's get into a bit of your background now. So you
Mhm.
grew up in Wigan. How would you describe your childhood?
Well, I have to say I was born in Stockport, which is not too far from Wigan, but yeah, I grew up in Wigan. Um, I'd say my childhood was real fun. I'm from a big Irish family, so and where we are, it's not far from my relatives back in Galway, Dublin, Portlaoise to come and visit. And for myself, I was always on and off the ferry back and forth to Ireland, to see everyone. So I had quite a fun time. But in Wigan, it was a mining town historically, coal mining town. And so there's a lot of musicality around that, and brass bands, um, and a lot of humour as well. It's the way people speak there. It was old English. It's like Lancashire. So you're reach. I'll be on bus if you don't mind. Oh, you walking dog. Now it's almost like learning a different language. Um, and so, because I moved from a place called Stockport near Manchester to Wigan when I was 7, I was amazed at these different accents and these different voices and different mannerisms. It was almost as a child, and obviously a bit of a mimic. That's why I became an actor, I think. I was fascinated by it. And to fit in, I would start to change my voice to sound like people in the school that spoke like that. And I'd come home and I'd say, "Oh, Mum, I'm just going to get the buzz." And she'd say, "Bus." I was getting corrected, but I was using language as a way of slotting in, and being a character like the characters that were around me. And I think that then went on to create a career.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And, I also saw that you like to put on plays,
Oh
as a
yeah,
kid. Do you
yeah.
remember what any of those plays were?
Well, we kind of came up with them ourselves. They weren't, we did things like Robin Hood on the Run. We made comedies of like pantomimes, and the funny thing was, it was all down to a great friend I had called Paula van Weingarten. And she really was the great actress, I thought. And she was a year and a half older than me. And she was a great storyteller. And we put these plays on in her back garden. And her younger brother was the same age as my younger sister. So we have them out front selling tickets and selling orange juice. And then we do like singing, dancing little dramas, and we were young, but it was fun. And then that led me to Wigan Little Theatre, which when I was 11, it was my first experience of being on a professional stage, shall we say, a small theatre, but it was a real stage in an auditorium. And it was a piece called The Clockwork Nightingale. And I was cast as the Clockwork Nightingale. So I think the smell of the grease paint and the lights and the fun and the applause, of course, led me to pursue it.
Yeah, you've said in the past that if you had not been an actor, you would have been a doctor or a nurse, something around that.
Yeah,
If you had taken that other route, let's say you had, gone that different way,
yeah.
what do you think your journey would have been like?
Um, I've played a lot of doctors and actresses and pretended to be them now as an actress in my career. But I think it's a profession that is very rewarding, and you can assist and be of help to people and be of service. And that as a performer, I think they overlap because you're trying to have empathy, compassion, and tell people's story, make them feel better. Now, as a doctor, I'd have been doing that hopefully with my compassion as well as my knowledge of the body and the drugs and all the rest of it. But it would actually be just trying to make people feel better.
Did you have any like specific favorite actors growing up that were like big influences on
Yeah,
you?
yeah, big time. Glenda Jackson, British actress. She only recently passed away. I think she was 88, but she was from the north of England, like I am, and she played characters with such. It felt so real. It didn't feel forced or um, it wasn't vanity led. It was character led. She was a character actress, and it gave me a real an ambition to actually be able to. Well, if she can go to London and do this, so can I. So it gave me this. There's someone like me doing this. I'll have a go. You know.
You went on to attend Leeds University.
Yeah.
How did you decide to go there?
Well, I actually went there first because I was studying classics, ancient classical literature, and Latin. And within the first year of being there, I realised that wasn't for me. And what had led me there is for 2 years doing my A levels before I went to university, I was studying classics with a brilliant, brilliant tutor called Billy Smears. And classics was the first ever degree in Oxford and Cambridge. But by the time I got to it in the 80s, it was like down the list. Everybody was doing English or law or, you know, uh, medicine. That's what people were aiming for as a top degree. But historically, classics was the top degree. But in my studies, we'd sit in this little cupboard with these desks that would fold down in front of us, and we'd have these beautiful, the Oresteia, Euripides, all these brilliant plays, and we'd read them off the page, character back, in character. And so we'd sit there acting these beautiful classics out. And I thought, my God, this is amazing. I love this. Homer, the Iliad, Aeschylus, all these great plays. And then I thought, great, this is what I want to do. I get to university and I'm just in lecture theatres, a moa mea mat, learning Latin, and it was completely devoid of the drama that I'd fallen in love with. So I left and went waitressing because I had to pay back my fees, for the year I'd done. And I went back to see my old Latin professor at Leeds University. And he said, I said, do they do drama here instead? And he went, well, there's a place affiliated, Bretton Hall. So I actually got on a bus, went up to this university. And I didn't realize at the time, knocked on this big door in this mansion. And I said, excuse me, what have your drama courses got to offer me? I mean, I've just left a course and I'm paying that one back. So I've got to make the right choice this time. And the gentleman was kind of surprised, and he spoke me through the different subjects. We've got dramatic arts, theatre arts. He said, but I think dramatic arts would be best for you. If you care to audition, that'd be great. I went, yeah, fine. So I went to the audition, had fun, got in. I then start the course, and I passed the gentleman in the corridor, and I said, oh, you were right. Dramatic arts was right for me. And he went, oh, I'm very pleased to hear it. And he walked on. Then my new made friend, Jo Rafferty, who's still a great friend, she said, how the hell do you know him? I said, oh, I asked him about the course. So she said, he's the chancellor of the whole university. And I'd hot seated him. No, because I want the right details. I want it to be the right course. I want it to be interactive. I want there to be improvisation. And there you go. That's how I started out. So
Wow,
got there in
wow.
the end.
That is remarkable. That's amazing. You know, when you were doing the drama stuff there,
Yeah.
what would you say during that time period, you know, were the most important things that you learned?
Improvisation. Improvisation and teamwork and working as one. It's not about who's in front of the curtain, behind the curtain, off stage, sound. We're all one. We're all one team. And there's no leads in a great production. There's a great team. And that's what I learned at Bretton.
Now, following graduation, you actually directed some youth theater,
Yeah.
and you've said in the past that this actually took a bit of a toll on you, and it was, you know, a bit of a challenge.
Mm.
What made this so challenging?
Well, you're young to begin with, of course. And I was also I was working with adult special needs and physically disabled children and young adults as well. And I think the empathy button was a bit too open, you know, and my heart used to bleed sometimes because there'd be certain disabilities that some of the youths would have that I was trying to compensate in the way I wrote or produced. And there was only me and one care assistant, and you'd have a group of, say, 15, 20 sometimes. And absolutely, it's quite exhausting at times, but I like to do things the best to my best of my abilities. But that means sometimes you're skipping meals, you're not eating right, you know, and you can get quite run down if you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true, very
Mm.
true. And I also read that you went on to live in Paris,
Yeah,
for a bit. What was
yeah.
that like?
Well, this actually was out of well, after the teaching actually led me to be quite ill, and I started to experience forms of epileptic seizures. And I've never really spoke about this before, but um, I'd like to tell you. And the seizures meant that I couldn't work. They said, oh, well, you can't be driving, you can't. So I couldn't get to the schools and teach. And they investigated the seizures and they found out I wasn't epileptic. It was actually due to stress and being exhaustion, you know. So I got full pay for 3 months. So I thought, well, if I've got to recover, I've got to recover well. And really, what I want to be doing is I want to be an actress, you know. And at one stage during my recovery, whilst I was in hospital, I said to a doctor, I need to leave, you know, because when I'd had the main seizure, I ended up with a massive, you know, bang my head, two black eyes out here. And I just thought, my life's got to change. Things have got to get better, you know. He said, you can't leave, you can't leave. We think you've got a brain tumour. So I just burst out laughing. I thought, well, if you're going to die, you might as well die doing what you love, you know? So I got on a flight to Paris. I'd stayed there as a young student and I blagged my way into National Film School in Paris. And over the weeks, my eyes came down from black to green to yellow to clear. And it was almost like my vision came back, and what I really wanted to do. And the great thing in France is they train people for camera. Unlike here back then, back in the 90s, you get your drama degree at RADA or whatever, then next thing you're in front of if you're lucky, if you're a working actor, you're on a set. And how do you know where to stand, what to do? The French, they train you. You go to Paris, stand here, you're poised, timing, how to angle, how to catch the light, all that. And I had, at the time, I'd studied French, but not to a degree level, but I could speak, everyday French. And yeah, that I thought, right, I came back. I still had the job as a teacher. I wanted to return to that, and the dramatic, the director at the youth theatre. But I handed in my notice, and I went and got an agent, and then my life changed.
Fairly soon after that, then
Mm.
then the
Yeah,
cops
yeah,
came about.
yeah.
I guess specifically when it comes to that role, like how did you land that?
Um, I I'd got the agent a year before, and I was lucky enough to be doing like corporate videos, TV adverts. I just got a kind of fit in anywhere face probably. I'm not too distinct, which is good for the kind of range of characters I was able to do. Be someone's daughter, be someone's sister, be a receptionist in the bank. So I got a lot of camera training doing all these little jobs, all these corporate videos. And then this 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 call came in for this big show, The Cops. But also, I was called for another thing called Hillsborough to play a police officer, and another one called City Blues. So something about me must have looked on paper like a policewoman, just the face, whatever. And I was lucky enough to go along, and I got offered all three. So I must have been a policewoman in a former life, I think. Actually, the Hubbards, who are a big casting agent, John Hubbard, the senior, it's his son that does all the movies now, but he just said to me, "You won't be available for me to be a police officer. If you're going for Tony Garnett for the Cops, he's going to pick you." And I thought, oh, that's great. I came out thinking, I've just lost two jobs. I've not definitely got his, and I haven't been confirmed on the other. But fate turned up, and I kept going. I had workshops, I had to go and do camera tests, but you just keep going, and you've never got a job until you finish the first day filming, and even then they can replace you. So feet on the ground, do your best, keep calm, and carry on.
Very glad that things worked out and that you got that role because you're acting on this show. It's really tremendous.
Mm.
no, and you just the way you bring that character of Natalie to life,
Oh,
and
she's quite a force.
yeah. I mean, it's it's tremendous work. You do a wonderful job.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. But I must say, again, as going back to what I said before, it's a team. That's great writers that created that character as well. That's brilliant camera operators that create that handheld roughness, superb sound that they've got all this in one take action going on, yet they're still to get the sound like that. It was an amazing team created that show. And I was just like, the little bit at the top of it that you see, but underneath the swans were swimming. I'm the swan and they're all pushing it. So, but the script writing, everybody thought when it first came out in the UK that it was a documentary. They thought we were real coppers, but that's all down to brilliant writing. So yeah, I've got to give it to the writers, Anita Pandolfo, Robert Jones, and Jim. Yeah, it was brilliant writing and directing and everything. Like I said, the team.
They kind of said how some people thought like it was like genuine and like real because of actually I'm a big fan of the the original UK Ricky Gervais Stephen Merchant version of The Office.
Yeah,
And no, and I've heard from some people that when The Office first came on that some people thought that was like a
yeah,
real
yeah,
documentary.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I actually was going a little too fast on what you'd call a freeway here in the UK, and out of nowhere, a police bike pulled up, And I thought, oh no. And I'm in my old jalopy thinking, I can't be speeding. It can hardly go. And he tapped on the window, this officer, and he said to me, he looked at me, he stopped and he went, excuse me, ma'am, you should know better. As if I was Natalie, you know? And I thought, how do I play this? You know, I'm going to let him think I am if I don't get a ticket. I went, yes, yes, sorry about that. Because where are you going, ma'am? And I said, I'm going to Haydock Races because we were still filming. It was the second series around there. And he went, follow me. And so he escorted me on a police bike to the stadium, to the race course. And the crew and everybody's out there. And then he turned, gave me a salute and went. And they went, what's going on? Because just let him go. Just let him go. Because I was frightened I was going to get a ticket for speeding. I wasn't speeding though. He was just warning me. That was all. So he didn't do anything wrong, but woof. But I'll never know if he thought I was Natalie. I'm not sure.
Whether it's you or the rest of the cast, like the
Yeah.
writers, just anyone in production, did any of you like fully grasp or realize how special and unique that this show was?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And I have to give a lot of that credit to the fantastic producer Tony Garnett. Now, Tony Garnett was my mentor, obviously, there on. Tony Garnett made amazing films like Kathy Come Home, Kes, you know, this kind of social hitting drama. And to have his name at the top of this and be part of it with us, you knew that you were in something special. You know, we spent 3 months with police officers and going to training, training college with it. You didn't just jump into the uniform and go. You know, there was a lot of research went on for those roles.
What makes the show hold up to this very day?
Uh, the authenticity, I think, and the how human. It's not there to criticize police officers. It's there to actually put them in context of being a human being, and you go home with them. You know, you are with them as people, not as just police. And I think that in itself is it helps people to identify with the strains and stresses that role brings as well.
What do you think a revival of the show would look like if they made let's say a new version of it for the current times?
Oh, very different because everyone's got cameras on now, so there'd be cameras on cameras on cameras. It's a different world out there, especially for policing. And I think that affects the way people police too, in a good way, because accountability, but also you've got, you've got the felons now acting for the camera for the court later. So it'd be a very different dynamic going on, I imagine. But it'd be a good idea, that actually, Sam. I know we have police shows, but it'd be nice to have it from the cops, from the world productions taste of it, from that inside gritty, real drama, but with that element. I think that could lift it.
Let's get into Coronation Street. How did your role as Charlie come about?
Well, because of the cops, because Jane McNaught, the producer, loved the cops and she loved Natalie. And so I didn't even have to audition. She brought me in and called me Charlie. So there wasn't that much of a diversion. And instead of a police officer, I was a teacher. So she was a bit different though. But what it was I was brought in to bring the drama element because it's a great show, Coronation Street. There's great humour, there's great domestic stories, but it was I was brought in to bring the drama to it.
Yeah, 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 certainly. What was it like? What was it like getting to play, a pretty complex character,
Mm.
like Charlie?
Um, it was uh, it was it was actually, first and foremost, it's my childhood ambition to be in Coronation Street, and so just to get the role, I felt absolutely privileged. because when we had moved to Wigan from Stockport, like I mentioned earlier, I used to go back and visit my grandparents, and we'd pass Granada Studios where they film Coronation Street. And I'd be 11 looking at studios, not telling anyone I even want to be an actor, saying, I want to be in that one day, because all my family, we'd sit down and watch it together. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Elsie Tanner, these women. And I'm from a family of strong women, I thought, wow, this is great. And how they deal with heartache and divorce and pain. And it gave you coping skills, for everyday life. And I thought, I'd love to be in that. And then, so for them to call me then the first day to go into the green room and see all these characters I'd grown up with, I was just overwhelmed with like gratitude, and I just felt so honored to get the role.
Yeah, of course. Knowing it's such an iconic show.
Yeah,
Know it's a real institution in the UK.
yeah,
I mean I can only imagine like for you it's especially as someone who wanted to be on the show.
yeah.
So I mean would imagine it's pretty much like a dream come true.
Well, Granada was our Hollywood, for me, for my version of Hollywood. So I'd made it in Hollywood. But having said that, they had offered me two roles prior to the one I did as Charlie. But I knew if I was going to go in that show, I wanted it to be a lead, a real player of a character. They offered me a nurse in a couple of episodes and a friend of somebody. I thought, no, you either go in big or not at all. Fortunately, it paid off. So,
Let's say if Charlie was a real person,
mhm.
what do you think she'd be up to today in 2025?
Whoa, that's a long time. Well, I actually think they would have divorced, Charlie Ramsden and Matt Ramsden. I think
Yeah,
the
yeah,
issue,
probably.
yeah, I think the heartache over the affair he had with the Maxine character next
Hmm.
door, and also her not having family and giving up a child like she did, and then her perhaps not going on to have children. I think it would have been too big a wedge between them. And I think she'd have become a headmistress and either ran a whole school or a college or perhaps gone lecturing at university. I think she was very driven.
Now, because of your work on Coronation Street, you
Mm.
actually got to take part in the special Coronation Street episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes.
What was your experience like doing that?
I have a problem in life of going, yes, of course I will. What's that? And it's led me to a few things actually. I ended up running the New York Marathon once because of that, you know. So yeah, well, it was for the Bobby Moore Bowel Cancer Trust. And the beauty of doing a serialized drama that's as big and as influential as Coronation Street is how you can help others through the job, you know? So you're getting paid well, you're getting notoriety, your ego's getting a boost. What can you give back? What can you give back? And how can you help others through that? And that I must say, in the short period I was there, 2 years I was there, I think my favourite memories are the work around it that I could do. And one of them was for the Bobby Moore Bowel Cancer Trust. And I went on that and terrified myself in a hot seat. You have it in the States, do you? Who Wants to Be a
Yeah,
Millionaire?
yes.
Oh. well, what happened is we went on as a cast, but we were doing it individually. And you had to win to get on. It was all the guys, all the male actors were getting through to do all. I thought we need a woman in that chair. Next thing it's me, and then I realised, oh my god, general knowledge in front of the nation. I'm going to show how little I don't know. But it worked out okay.
Yeah, of course. What was it like getting to interact with Chris Tarrant?
Oh, he's a love. He's absolutely brilliant. He's a charming gentleman, Chris Tarrant. And also he helped your nerves, he calmed your nerves. And he helped you pace yourself because phone a friend and all this kind of stuff. But when I phoned a friend, I found a gentleman who used to play the butcher in Coronation Street, and he answered it in character. Go, hello there, how are you doing? And, oh my gosh. Uh, so it was, but Chris, he led it lovely. He led it and went, Claire's here now, and she just wants to ask you a question. Yeah. And he calmed you down and gave you pace. So it is consummate professional, Chris Tarrant.
And it's awesome. It's awesome. You know, no, the interesting thing about this episode is because I went searching for this episode online. I really wanted to see, to see your part
Are you
on it.
sweating?
Um, but I can tell you that I cannot find it anywhere. It is actually apparently one of the few Millionaire episodes that is lost media.
That's
Um,
good. That's good.
oh my gosh. Um,
I'm not.
so,
Oh, I can say I want
so,
a million
so,
now, can't I? No,
so you don't really have a problem with that with it being
no,
like erased from like the like scrubbed from the internet or whatever.
no. I'll tell you what did happen is I got through to £1,600, right? 16,000, sorry, £16,000, about what, 23 grand, $23,000, whatever equivalent. And I actually stuck at that because if I got the next question wrong, I'd have gone back down to £1,000 from £16,000. If it had been my own money, I'd have risked it. But I thought, no, no, 16,000 for charity is good. Yeah.
Mm.
But it got more complicated than that. So we do the show and everything's fine. But what I hadn't realised is as I was going on to actually film the show and to go in the chair, they said, who are you raising money for today, Claire? And I said, the Bobby Moore Bowel Cancer Trust. And they gave me a sheet of paper and they said, oh, Stockport. I went, oh, I'm from Stockport. And I knew it was for Bobby Moore. So I said, yeah, Stockport Hospital. That's amazing. My sister was born, and I spoke like this. So we do the show, win the money. Everyone's happy, go home. Next thing, a couple of days later, I got a call from my agent. Stockport want the money, £16,000. I said, well, yeah, of course. I went, no, Claire. Bobby Moore had two wives and you were raising money for his other wife's foundation. And because you said it on television that it was the Stockport one, you're liable to pay it. I was like, sorry, because Chris Tarrant's team had given it to Bobby Moore's second wife's foundation that I was climbing Kilimanjaro for. The first wife also had a bowel cancer foundation. And because we'd said it on television, she wanted the money. So anyway, Chris Tarrant, bless his soul, he paid them both. So it ended up £32,000 my win. 16,000 went to Bobby Moore Stockport and 16,000 to the second wife. So there you go.
Wow, how about that? So things get got complicated, but I guess it all
Yeah,
works out in the end.
yeah. So they say there's what is it about a good deed? A good deed never goes rewarded. Unpunished never goes unpunished. Well, I felt a bit punished for a few days, I tell you.
No, it's funny. I was gonna bring this next thing up. You actually just mentioned it. Getting to climb up Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Like what do you remember from that whole experience?
That was absolutely wonderful on lots of levels. The people in Tanzania absolutely gorgeous, and it was quite a spiritual experience going up the mountain. And one of the reasons for that is my father worked in Nigeria, in Africa, Lagos, and after several bouts of malaria, his liver was really badly affected and he had to be flown home needing a liver transplant. He flew back to Ireland, where he was from, my father, and then to Cambridge, the UK, and he had a liver transplant. And during his procedures and his operation, he wrote me a letter saying, when I was having I'd had my epileptic seizure at the same time. So I'm at a hospital in Leeds. My dad's at a hospital in Cambridge, and he's writing me a letter saying, when we both get better, I want to take you to Africa. I'd love you to come back with me and show you the Africa and the beautiful people. Well, my dad was fortunate to survive 6 months after his operation, but sadly passed away. And that was in 94. And so in 2000 and I think it's 2002. I climbed Kilimanjaro. I remember being on the mountain, and I was being filmed by a documentary crew. There was a few of us from Coronation Street, a few actors from Coronation Street, a few actors from a show called The Bill, and so they'd film and follow you, and lovely camera operators. And then I was going around part of one of these ridges, and it was all cloud, and then the clouds just lifted, and I looked out, I could see the plains of Kenya, and it was just one of those amazing moments. And I just remember them saying, "How are you feeling, Claire?" And I said, and it was so genuine. I just said, "My dad always said he'd bring me to Africa, and I think he just has, And I'm very lucky that that's all in a documentary. So it was all captured, Um, I think this life, we're very fortunate. You've got to keep going, and you're always connected with your loved ones, whether they're with you here or in spirit, And that's what Kilimanjaro did to me. It reconnects me with my dad.
That's that's really amazing to hear. That's wonderful. It's awesome.
Mm, mm,
Uh, uh, now following actually your time on Coronation Street,
yeah,
you performed in this pantomime. It was called Robin Hood and the Babes in the Wood, and
yeah.
you got to play Robin Hood. I mean, that's
Again, I'd
pretty
done
dang
it as a kid in
awesome.
the back garden.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the delight of that was I'm a massive fan of Freddie Mercury from Queen. And I got to sing twice a day. Don't stop me now. I'm looking for a good time, having a ball. And so I got to sing my favorite uh, Queen track. So yeah, playing Robin Hood. But it was great because you've got all the children as well that come, different children, and it's their first time on a stage. So the cycle goes on. Like it been my first time on stage at their age, it was theirs now. So it's great. It's great as a team to keep this performance and this joy of theatre together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so cool because earlier you were mentioning pantomimes,
Yeah,
talking about like your childhood, and
yeah,
then like it kind of comes up again,
yeah,
when you're older. I think that's
yeah.
so cool.
It's great. Apps are great. Blessings.
Mhm. You appeared in the film The Bad Mother's Handbook, a film
Oh yeah,
that features names like Catherine Tate, Robert
brilliant.
Pattinson.
Yeah,
You got to share the screen with Catherine. What was
yeah.
it like getting to work with her?
Well, she's an amazing performer, amazing actress. Actually, I mean, she's known for a comedy as her main calling card, but as an actress, I think she could act me off the screen. She's got such empathy and stillness, and she's got such depth. So I learned a lot from working with Catherine, even though it was only a few scenes. When you meet somebody like that, that's so centered and so genuine, it's infectious. Well, she's similar to Tracy Ullman. You know Tracy Ullman in America.
Yes, yes.
Exactly not exactly the same, but the same amazing acting skills. Brilliant actress, Tracy Ullman, and yet because she can do comedy. I mean, I do a lot of comedy in theatre, but I think that there's quite a bit of snobbery about comedy and acting, as if they're two separate mediums. It's not. It's timing, it's character, it's observation, it's portrayal. No, Tracy Ullman, Catherine Tate, brilliant.
Mm. Yeah, certainly. In what ways do you think personally that you've grown as a performer from the start of your acting career to the present?
Um, I've learned to take it less seriously and have more fun with it. But that's been born out of blood, sweat, and tears and getting lots of things wrong. uh, and realize that we're there telling stories, and the most important thing is that you the place that you're coming from, the way you tell your story and the stories that you tell, that means you have to turn work down sometimes because you just don't agree with the material. And for once I was up to play Myra Hindley, which was it was a play. It was a thing called See No Evil, and it was down to me and Maxine Peake. Maxine Peake got the role, but I was rather relieved because I just couldn't bear making this character a victim. Um, this it was the Moors murderers, which is a thing in the UK where this couple murdered children in a place called Hyde. Well, I was born in Hyde near Stockport, and there's no way I thought that the woman was a victim to the man in this. I thought, no, I can't play her as a victim, so I won't do it. Not that I didn't, I just threw it. The way to not, it's easy not to get a role as an actor. You just play it badly when you do the reading. You don't have to say, I'm not playing it. You just do it rubbish.
Are there any roles that you have, like any types of roles that you haven't played, in your career that you would still like to?
um, hmm. Oh, well, perhaps on screen comedy, because on stage I've done a lot of comedy, but more comical characters, because it's quite it's quite strange because often my friends and I that play the hard, straight characters, we're the ones that have more fun off camera. And then the ones that are always really serious are the ones that get to do the fun on camera. A lot of your comedians and comics are quite dour and yet they get on the camera and you've got the Peter Sellers or you've got so yeah, some comedy on camera, I think. Because you get streamlined. Once you get known for a certain brand of what you do, that's what people keep asking you to do.
Hmm.
So, but I'm lucky. I've been off screen for a long time. So if I do come back, I can be anything. So no one knows who I am.
I'm really just curious, so, what are the things that bring you the most joy in life?
My family, my extended family and friends. That gives me the most joy. And spending time with great people, music, laughing, and hearing how everyone is and how their life's going, and I like to entertain a lot, so I like to cook for people, like to have them round, and like I say, I'm from a big Irish family, so there's often music being played, there's often celebration, and I've just come back from Dublin, and sadly my aunt passed away last week. That's why I had to delay the Zoom for a week. And it's a very different thing in Ireland. We celebrate death like we do life. We see it as part of the same cycle. And there was an open cask with my aunt in, and the children are playing around the bottom of their grandma. They're carrying on, and people are speaking to the loved one that they've lost and singing. The flute was being played, the accordion was being played. My brilliant cousins, Jonathan and Christian, that have lost their mother, they celebrated her life. So, yeah, family. And my friends are my family as well.
Now, last question here. What is the biggest piece of advice that you have for aspiring actors?
Keep going. Keep going. Don't give up. Don't give up. And when it comes to the actual auditioning process, um, that if you want a job, you've got to keep your own counsel. And often, I don't know what it's like now because I haven't done any acting for since just before lockdown. I haven't been in auditions, and now it's self tapes anyway when we do stuff. But when you get to major roles, sometimes you're in a room outside with other actors going for the same role, yeah, and you might go in first before somebody else, and then come out, and then go back in again. And I suggest that when you come out and someone says, "What did they have you doing there?" Don't share it because you went in there blind, and they need to go in there blind because otherwise you're giving away the job. You have to be very discreet because we make a living out of this as well. The team starts once you're in the job. It can't start outside the door. You need to get the job first, and then you can be in the team. Because you see, we're often people pleasers as actors, and we want to help
Yeah.
and assist. But the reason that came about is that the Cops wasn't a case in point. prior to the Cops, I'd gone for an audition for a Christmas hamper for TV. And this particular girl, I knew her, and she was there too. And she said, "Oh, Claire, what did they have you do?" I said, "Oh, this, you know." And she went, "Oh, great." And she went in. And I said, "Do you want a lift home?" Um, and I said, "If either of us get the job, let's ring the other one and say we've got it." She went, "Oh, right, yes, yes." I never had a phone call. Comes lead up to Christmas, she's there on screen with this hamper advert, and she never rang me. And I was like heartbroken because I would have rang her and said, "Oh, I got it." Cut forward to 6 months later, I'm at the second audition for the Cops, second round of auditions. She's sat in the room, isn't she? Yeah.
Mm.
They've got me going in first, and I'm in longest with all the other actors all the time. And there's 5 girls for Natalie. I go in first. I'm in long with everybody for every other character. And I keep telling myself it's just because I've got good improvisation skills, just because of, this kind of thing. You can't say you've got the job. And I come out after one session, and this particular girl said, "What did they have you doing there?" Like she'd done on the hamper advert. And I'd learned. I went, "You know what? I don't think it helped." I said, "But have a good one." And I walked off. It was very unlike me not to say they were asking you to do this. They have a guy come in, all the stuff that they were having you improvise. And then I went for a walk around the blocks and thought, there's 4 more actresses to go in and do these scenes again. Come back, and there's a guy sweeping up, and they'd done the big end of meeting thing and been told to go home. And then it got to another on-screen test, and she was up for it, and I was up for it again, And she said, "Claire, have sent you the scripts?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got the script." She says, "What does your script say?" I said, "What do your scripts say?" And it was a very strange, it was unusual for me not to share and overshare everything. But that's how I got the job, ultimately, because it was fair. She was going in blind, and I was going in blind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you'd have give it away, she'd have got this job as well as the hamper. So, as an actor, keep your counsel. You don't talk to anybody about what's in scripts. It's all tops. It's all confidential. And you can't even tell friends or family. It's a lone sport being an actor at times.
Well, thank you so much, Claire. This was a wonderful experience. No, just once again,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
my pleasure. And moving forward with my business that I run now, as that is up and running, I'll be in touch with you to talk about that. It's to do with performance and show. It's called Showreel, but I'll talk another time about that with you. But yeah, it's been lovely doing this. It's been really good for me.